For the first time since U.S. President Trump took office, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came to the White House. It marked a dramatic shift from the previous 8 years.
Thank you. Again, thank you.
A rekindled friendship chased away any winter chill at the White House Wednesday. After years of tension with the Obama administration, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sees President Trump as a key partner.
I've known the president and I've known his family and his team for a long time. And there is no greater supporter of the Jewish people and the Jewish state than President Donald Trump.
But there are key issues to work through, starting with how to achieve peace between Israel and the Palestinians.
As with any successful negotiation, both sides will have to make compromises. You know that, right?
In comments that would no doubt anger Palestinian leaders, Trump said a two-state solution isn't a requirement for peace.
So I'm looking at two-state and one-state, and I like the one that both parties like. I'm very happy with the one that both parties like. I can live with either one.
Netanyahu maintains Palestinians must recognize Israel's right to exist before any peace plan can move forward.
You have to ask yourself, why are Jews called Jews? Well, the Chinese are called Chinese because they come from China. The Japanese are called Japanese because they come from Japan. Well, Jews are called Jews because they come from Judea. This is our ancestral homeland. Jews are not foreign colonialists in Judea.
The other thorny issue is on so-called settlements. In the West Bank, Netanyahu has pushed forward, but the White House says that may not be the best move for a peace deal. It's a topic CBN News asked about at their joint news conference.
On the settlement issue, are you both on the same page? How do you exactly term that as it relates to the settlement issue?
As far as settlements, I'd like to see you hold back on settlements for a little bit. We'll work something out, but I would like to see a deal be made. I think a deal will be made.
Let's try it.
Doesn't sound too optimistic, but that's he's a good negotiator.
That's the art of the deal.
It also provided the president his first opportunity to address the controversy concerning fired National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. He didn't address the timetable of what he knew about his campaign advisors talking with Russian officials. Instead, he blamed the media.
I think he's been treated very, very unfairly by the media, as I call it, the fake media in many cases. And I think it's really a sad thing that he was treated so badly. I think in addition to that, from intelligence, papers are being leaked, things are being leaked. It's criminal action, criminal act, and it's been going on for a long time before me, but now it's really going on.
The key question remains whether the Trump administration can begin to plug these leaks so he can move forward with his agenda. David Brody, CBN News.
Joining me to talk more about the Trump-Netanyahu meeting is from our Washington, D.C. bureau is John Waggy, CBN senior editor. And here in our Jerusalem bureau, Julie Stahl, our Middle East correspondent. John, I'll start with you. What was your big takeaway from yesterday's press conference with Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump?
Well, Chris, I think really it does feel like a new era, certainly. You could tell by the body language, you could tell by a lot of different ways the camaraderie that flowed between the two leaders, and they have some substantive new ideas. You know, one of the things, though, that's going to be interesting, because I had noticed that in Jerusalem, the headlines were all about the possible end of the two-state solution and how the two leaders seem to get along so well and all those kind of things. And the headlines here in Washington were about all of Trump's problems with his fellow Republicans, with the national security apparatus, and also with the media. And so he's got a lot of work to do just to get to the Middle East again. He's got a lot of things to work out here politically, just to get his feet on the ground here in Washington. The opposition is in full cry here.
It does seem like an administration in siege, but as you say, the optics yesterday were a big change from what happened with Netanyahu and Obama for the last 8 years. Julie, to you, what would you say the Israeli and the Palestinian reaction was to yesterday's press conference?
Well, it was definitely a very hospitable press conference for the Israelis. I think the reaction here is probably a little bit mixed. On the right, they're pretty happy with Netanyahu. He was actually given a lot of freedom, although I think the settlement issue kind of threw him a little bit for a loop.
Yeah, and I understand you had a conversation with Saeb Erekat, the chief negotiator for the PLO.
Yes, I did. I spoke with him this morning, and he couldn't say disaster enough times. And he kept saying, if this is the end of the two-state solution, then it'll be a disaster for Israelis and Palestinians. I asked him, well, would you recognize Israel as a Jewish state? And he said, we've already recognized Israel. He avoided the whole Jewish issue completely.
John, it looks like the Palestinians seem to be out of the deal, so to speak. Mr. Trump, President Trump, the man of the art of the deal, seems to be having a new paradigm in the Middle East. Rather than just negotiating Israeli-Palestinians, he seems to be making it a regional issue. What did you think of that?
Well, I think absolutely that's what he's done. That's exactly what he's done. There is a new kind of shape of things in the Arab world, and this is something that both Trump and Netanyahu referred to in their meeting as a sign of real hope that something can be arranged. It does seem to leave the Palestinians out in the cold to some extent. It'll be interesting to see how within the Arab world they have a give and take that will present one negotiating side. That could be a real issue in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah, I would think so too. And it seems like what's drawing Israel and these Sunni Arab nations together is their common enemy, Iran. Julie, how important is the Iran issue to Israel?
Well, it's very, very important. They've said on their missiles, as the Prime Minister said last night, it's written, death to Iran, death to Israel on their missiles. So Iran really is a threat.
Julie, what's this idea behind the nuclear deal? I mean, I understand Netanyahu is saying they're not only wanting to make one nuclear weapon, they want to make maybe 200, 100 nuclear weapons. And also he was saying, he was making the point, wasn't he, that this is not just a threat to Israel, but the U.S. as well.
That's right. Intercontinental ballistic missiles will be able to reach the United States. They're not for Israel. So nuclear Iran will be a threat not just to Israel, but to the region and the U.S., the whole world.
John, a final question to you. Iran poses a threat to Israel, the region, and the U.S. How do you think believers, Christians, should be praying for this new era that we're just getting into?
Well, I heard a lot of talk in the meeting this week about the art of the deal and deal making and all that kind of thing. Christians, I believe, all who believe in the words of the Bible need to realize that the Bible has a lot to say about the biblical borders and about what the Lord's plans are for this land. And we're enjoined to pray in the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so we want the Lord's plans to be established here. And it can be, when you get caught up in political battles and all that kind of thing, you might want one side to win over the other, and deals sound really good. But the important thing is that the Lord's plans and purposes be established for the Middle East. I think that's the key and a real point of prayer, in addition to the one we always have from the Bible, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Thanks, John. That's a great perspective. So thanks, John, from Washington, D.C. Glad to see you there, and Julie here in Jerusalem. And this is going to be such a big issue that we'll be reporting on months and years to come.